Hi everyone, today I'm going to walk you through when and how to contact the editor of your manuscript. Editors play an evolving and increasingly dynamic role in the publication process, so this won't just be about common practices. We'll also explore newer positive aspects of editorial work and the key moments when you, as an author, should intervene. I've been routinely communicating with editors for over 5 years now, both while submitting manuscript from the lab and during peer review, so everything I'm sharing comes from first-hand experience. Let's start at the beginning. When should you first contact an editor? The first time you reach out to an editor should ideally be before submitting your manuscript. Editors receive far more manuscript that they can deeply engage with, especially when a topic sits slightly outside their main area of expertise. To ensure your manuscript gets proper consideration, you'll want to make a strong early impression. Cover letter help, but direct interaction is far more effective. So, where can you meet editors in person? Scientific conferences are one of the best places. Most editors are senior scientists themselves, and many attend major meetings to keep up with emerging trends. If a poster or talk catches their attention, they may even invite you to submit to their journal. Some journals also send full-time professional editors to conferences. You might also meet editors during institute visits or academic seminars. Now, if in-person interaction isn't possible, many journals allow for pre-submission inquiries via email or online forms. These don't necessarily improve your odds of acceptance, but they can speed up the initial screening process. So let's assume now that you've submitted your manuscript. When should you follow up? It is important to track the process, but don't reach out too soon. The first editorial decision, often called the editorial triage, determines whether your manuscript will move forward into peer review. This typically takes 3 to 10 days. If you haven't heard back after 10 days, it's reasonable to send a polite follow-up. At top-tier journals, the editorial board may conduct an internal roundtable discussion before making the first decision, which can slow things down a bit. Assuming your paper is sent out for reviewers, now what happens? This is the longest and most unpredictable phase. Two major delays usually happen here. First, finding qualified reviewers, and second, receiving reviewers' comments. Most editors aim to secure 2 to 3 reviewers with complementary expertise, but finding willing reviewers can take a couple of weeks, especially since reviewing doesn't directly benefit one's career. Once reviewers are secured, journals typically ask for feedback within 2 weeks. However, in reality, many reviewers take 4 or more weeks, especially for complex papers. Personally, I often request 4 weeks to review a manuscript, and journals have always agreed. So overall, this phase often takes 6 to 9 weeks. If you haven't heard anything by week 7 or 8, it's perfectly fine to check in with the editor. In the meantime, use the journal's manuscript tracking system. Some trackers offer clear real-time updates, others are vague and cryptic, unfortunately. If there is a long silence, the holdup is often due to a reviewer accepting the invitation but not submitting their comments on time. Should you suggest additional reviewers at this stage? Generally, no. In your original cover letter, you likely suggested 3 reviewers. Journals typically consider only one of those. Suggesting more reviewers later can limit the editor's flexibility because many journals automatically exclude suggested reviewers. Instead, you can ask the editor if the comments from 2 reviewers are available, especially if you are near the end of the review window and the 3rd reviewer is delayed. Editors sometimes do this on their own to help you get ahead on the revisions. If the comments are positive, you can begin revising while you wait for the 3rd reviewer. Once you have the feedback, start revising. But what if one reviewer gives unreasonable or out of scope comments? In that case, reach out to the editor for guidance. A good editor will let you know whether these comments are essential, helpful, or low priority, so you can focus on the most critical aspects. After submitting your revised manuscript, what should you expect? Revisions often go faster than the first initial round of review. The same reviewers are usually asked to reevaluate and they already understand your work. However, if key aspects weren't addressed thoroughly in the first round, the editor might invite a new reviewer. This could add another layer of delay. If you haven't heard anything after 6 weeks, it's reasonable to send a short, polite inquiry. Unfortunately, there is not much the editor can do if a reviewer is simply unresponsive, aside from sending reminders, which is often happening automatically. Eventually, you get the long-awaited final decision. If your manuscript is accepted, congratulations. If not, two things might happen. First, a reviewer has lingering concerns. In this case, you can ask the editor what specific additional work would resolve the issue. Second, the manuscript is rejected. If you believe the suggested experiments are feasible, even if time-consuming, you can ask about the possibility of resubmission. This puts your manuscript back into the review process, but often with the same reviewers, so it typically goes more quickly than an initial first submission. Okay, that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to support the content and make it more discoverable for other researchers, even for you in the future. If you are currently working on a manuscript, don't forget to check out my playlist on how to write a research paper, and I will see you in the next video.